Look at him. He can't even afford a lawyer. He probably Googled how to defend yourself in divorce court last night. Vendela's voice echoed through courtroom 4B, and the gallery erupted in laughter. Her attorney smirked, adjusting his $1,000 tie while I sat at my table with nothing but a yellow legal pad and a pen that was running out of ink. My name is Tobinine Shawn. I'm a high school history teacher. I make $47,000 a year. And right now, watching my wife of 6 years mock me in front of a judge, I felt like the smallest man in the world. The judge, a stern woman with silver hair, rapped her gavel. "Mr. Shawn, do you have legal representation?" My throat was dry. "My mother is on her way, Your Honor." The laughter doubled. Vendela bent over, clutching her stomach dramatically. Even her lawyer covered his mouth to hide a grin. My hands trembled as I gripped the edge of the table. The judge's expression softened slightly, but her voice remained firm. "We'll take a 30-minute recess. If no attorney arrives, I'm ruling in favor of Mrs. Shawn by default." My phone buzzed. One text from Mom. "Almost there, son. Trust me." This is one story that gets me talking. Anyways, before I continue, kindly like, share, and subscribe for more interesting stories. The recess felt like drowning. I stared at the table, and suddenly, I was back in our old apartment, 6 years ago, down on one knee with a ring I'd saved 8 months to buy. Vendela had cried. Real tears, I thought. Yes, oh my God, yes! I'd been so happy I didn't notice her glancing at her phone on the counter, where her friend Dakota had texted, "You sure about this? He's so ordinary." My mother raised me alone in a 2-bedroom rental on Maple Street. She worked long hours at what she called legal secretary jobs, though she never talked much about it. We ate spaghetti 4 nights a week. She taught me that humility wasn't weakness, it was strength. "Never flash what you have," she'd say, folding my one good shirt for school. "Stay humble. Work hard. Be kind." So I became a teacher. I saved money. I lived in a modest apartment and drove a 10-year-old Honda. When I proposed to Vendela, I had $50,000 in savings, money I'd scraped together for our future, a future she was now trying to take in court. The bailiff's voice snapped me back. "All rise." The judge returned, and Vendela's lawyer stood immediately, sliding papers across the bench like he was dealing cards in a poker game he'd already won. "Your Honor, we're seeking division of assets. The marital home, valued at $280,000. The vehicle, a 2022 Toyota Camry, and we're requesting $3,000 monthly alimony as Mrs. Shawn sacrificed her career to support the household." My jaw dropped. Sacrificed her career? She worked part-time at a boutique for 6 months before quitting because the owner didn't appreciate her vision. The lawyer continued, sliding another document. "Mr. Shawn's current assets total $12,000. However, Mrs. Shawn has maintained separate property valued at $340,000 through careful financial planning." I shot up from my chair. "That's my inheritance money. My uncle left me." "Your uncle left you $8,000 3 years into the marriage," Vendela's lawyer interrupted smoothly. "Which makes it marital property under state law, Mr. Shawn." The judge nodded, seeming to agree. My heart hammered against my ribs. That money was supposed to be protected. Uncle Garrett's will specifically said. My phone buzzed. "Mom, 5 minutes away. Do not agree to anything." My finger hovered over the settlement papers. During the recess, I stepped into the hallway for air. That's when Vendela's friends surrounded me like vultures circling roadkill. Dakota led the pack, her phone already recording. "This is what happens when you marry a broke teacher. Girl, you dodged a bullet staying with him this long." Another woman, Sienna something I could never remember, laughed. "Imagine being so pathetic you need your mommy to save you in court." They circled closer. I stood frozen, my back against the cold marble wall. 6 years of trying to make Vendela happy flashed through my mind. The extra shifts I worked so she could have spa days, the times I ate ramen so she could go to brunch with these same women who were now mocking me. "He probably still lives with his mom," Dakota said to the camera. "Poor little Tobinine." "Excuse me?" A woman's voice cut through the laughter like a knife. "I'm looking for courtroom 4B." Everyone turned. A woman in an immaculate black suit stood there, silver briefcase in hand. Her heels clicked on the marble floor with the precision of a metronome. My heart stopped. "Mom?" She didn't hug me. She nodded once, professionally, and walked past Vendela without a glance. The bailiff opened the courtroom door, and my mother handed him a business card. I watched his eyes go wide, actually wide, like he'd seen a ghost. He immediately picked up the phone and called the judge's chamber. I'd never been inside my mother's workplace. She always said she worked downtown and kept her professional life separate. When I was 16, she disappeared for 6 months, came back with red eyes and legal documents she wouldn't explain. On my 18th birthday, she'd handed me a business card with just a phone number. "If you ever really need me," she'd whispered, "call this." I'd lost that card years ago, but 3 days ago, desperate and terrified, I'd remembered the number. A professional voice had answered, "Shawn and Associates, how may we direct your call?" Now Mom sat beside me and opened her briefcase. Inside was a file 4 inches thick labeled Shawn v. Shawn, Complete Financial Disclosure. Vendela's confident smile faltered. Her lawyer leaned over. "Who is that?" Mom slid her card across the aisle. I watched his face drain of color. The judge returned early. "I understand Eleanor Shawn is now representing the defendant?" Mom stood. "That's correct, Your Honor. I'd like to submit 47 pieces of new evidence." Mom didn't waste time. She pulled out a laptop, connected it to the courtroom projector, and suddenly bank statements filled the screen behind the judge. "Your Honor, my client was unaware that Mrs. Shawn opened 8 credit cards in his name over the past 4 years. The total debt, $89,000. Vendela grabbed her lawyer's arm, whispering frantically. I stared at the screen in shock. 8 credit cards? I'd never seen statements. I'd never signed applications. Mom clicked to the next slide. Notice these monthly withdrawals of $890. My client believed this was their shared savings account. In reality, Mrs. Shawn secured a lifestyle loan using my client's identity and forged signature. A signature appeared on screen. Mine, but not mine. The loops were wrong. The slant was off. "We've had a handwriting expert verify the forgery," Mom continued. "Mrs. Shawn used these funds for country club membership fees, spa treatments, and luxury purchases while telling my client they were too poor to afford basic necessities. I remembered last year when I'd asked about anniversary dinner. Vendela had snapped, 'We can't afford it, Tobinine. You need to work more overtime.' The judge leaned forward. 'Mrs. Shawn, did you forge your husband's signature?' Vendela's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Mom wasn't finished. She clicked again, and photos filled the screen. Vendela kissing a man I'd never seen. Expensive restaurants. A hotel rooftop. A weekend getaway with luggage I recognized from our closet. "This is Mr. Dexter Reed," Mom said calmly. "Wealthy real estate developer. These photos span 18 months. Brasserie Lumiere, $300 per person. The Grandview rooftop. A weekend in Napa Valley. All while my client was told they couldn't afford a $40 anniversary dinner at Olive Garden." My stomach turned. 18 months, a year and a half of lies. Mom clicked once more. A text message thread appeared. "Can't wait until this is over and you're finally mine. That condo is waiting for you. Just clean up your situation first." Dexter was in the gallery. I watched him sink low in his seat, suddenly very interested in his shoes. The judge removed her glasses. "Mrs. Shawn, in this state, adultery significantly affects asset division." Vendela's lawyer stood shakily. "Your Honor, we'd like to request a recess to confer with—" "I'm not finished," Mom interrupted. Her voice was ice. "The country club membership Mrs. Shawn claimed was a gift from her parents? That requires additional explanation." Mom presented membership documents with my signature, another forgery. "Mrs. Shawn listed my client's income as $240,000 annually to gain approval. That's triple his actual teacher's salary. She also pledged their home as collateral without his knowledge or consent, the home that came from his premarital inheritance." The gasps in the courtroom sounded like a wave crashing. I'd inherited that house from Uncle Garrett 2 months before I met Vendela. It was supposed to be untouchable. Vendela was crying now, mascara streaming down her cheeks. Her lawyer furiously whispered to her, but she just shook her head. This wasn't just marital discord, Mom continued. This was systematic financial fraud spanning 4 years. Mrs. Shawn didn't just want a divorce, she wanted to financially destroy my client while preparing her exit strategy with Mr. Reed. I glanced at the gallery. Dexter was gone. So were most of Vendela's friends. The judge signaled the bailiff. We need to pause. Mrs. Shawn, were you aware these actions constituted fraud? Vendela looked toward the gallery, searching for Dexter's face. Finding only empty seats, her shoulders collapsed. Mom opened another folder. There's more, Your Honor, regarding the inheritance money Mrs. Shawn claims is marital property. Mom pulled out Uncle Garrett's will, official, notarized, filed in another state where Vendela never thought anyone would look. My brother Garrett left Tobinine $50,000 with specific instructions. This money must be kept separate from any marriage. If your spouse tries to claim it, call your mother immediately. I remembered Uncle Garrett's funeral. He'd pulled me aside the month before he died, made me promise to keep that money separate. I'd tried. I'd put it in an account labeled Garrett's Gift. Mom displayed transfer records. Mrs. Shawn discovered this account, transferred the funds to their joint account without authorization, and spent $48,200 on cosmetic procedures, luxury handbags, and spa treatments. She clicked through receipts. Breast augmentation, designer purses I'd never seen her carry at home, weekends at resorts she'd claimed were girls' trips. Vendela sobbed openly now. Her lawyer approached the bench, had a heated, whispered conversation with the judge, then returned. Your Honor, my client would like to revisit settlement terms. Mom didn't sit down. We're not interested in settlement. We're pursuing full restitution and requesting the court award my client the house, the vehicle, and sole responsibility for her debts. Vendela stood shakily, her voice breaking. Your Honor, I made mistakes, but I was unhappy for years. I even consulted lawyers 14 months ago because I couldn't take it anymore. The courtroom went silent. Even her own lawyer's eyes widened. Mom pounced. Your Honor, she just admitted to planning this divorce for over a year while continuing to steal from my client, forge documents, and commit adultery. This wasn't a victim-seeking escape. This was calculated, premeditated fraud. The judge wrote notes furiously. Vendela realized her mistake too late, her hand flying to her mouth. I finally found my voice. It came out quieter than I intended, but it carried through the silent courtroom. I would have given you anything if you'd just been honest with me. Vendela looked at me, and for one brief moment, maybe the first genuine moment in 6 years, I saw real regret cross her face. Her mouth opened like she wanted to say something. Mom cut through the moment. Your Honor, we'd like to proceed to final arguments. The judge nodded slowly. Let's take a brief recess. 10 minutes. The gavel fell like thunder. 10 minutes felt like 10 hours. When we returned, the judge didn't waste time. I've presided over this bench for 23 years. I've seen affairs, hidden assets, even occasional fraud. But this level of systematic deception is extraordinary. Vendela stared at the table. Mrs. Shawn, you forged signatures, committed identity theft, engaged in adultery, and showed no remorse until confronted with evidence. The court rules as follows. Mr. Tobinine Shawn is awarded the marital home, the vehicle, and all separate property. Mrs. Shawn is responsible for 100% of marital debt, including all credit cards and loans obtained through fraudulent means. The country club membership is canceled immediately. The judge paused, looking directly at Vendela. Additionally, Mrs. Shawn will pay Mr. Shawn $3,500 monthly for 3 years as restitution for stolen inheritance funds. Vendela collapsed into her chair like a puppet with cut strings. The gallery was almost empty now. Her friends had abandoned ship. Mom leaned close and whispered, There's one more thing. I looked at her, confused. She stood. Your Honor, one final disclosure for the record. Mom's voice was steady. Your Honor, for complete transparency, I must note that Mr. Dexter Reed is also currently involved in litigation with my firm. His ex-wife retained our services 2 weeks ago. Mr. Reed has been concealing assets and using his relationship with Mrs. Shawn as leverage in his own divorce proceedings. Both cases are now interconnected, and today's evidence will be submitted in his matter as well. Vendela's eyes went wide with horror. Her rich boyfriend wasn't her escape plan. He'd been using her as a pawn in his own divorce. She had nothing, no husband, no money, no Dexter, and potential criminal charges looming. The judge banged her gavel. This court is adjourned. Outside, I walked beside my mother in silence until we reached her car. A modest sedan, nothing flashy. I finally asked, "Why didn't you ever tell me what you really do?" Mom stopped, looked at me with eyes that suddenly seemed older. "Because I needed you to be a good man before you knew you had power." She unlocked her car. "Your father was rich and cruel. I wanted you different." "And I am?" She smiled. "You are."